The Genovese family owned every jukebox and candy machine in New York. You don't know the full story. Listen up. They established near-total control over vending in the 50s and 60s, operating through a massive network of companies. Owners using non-mob machines faced vandalism and threats, while mob associates filed fake health code complaints. The network was a cash collection and intelligence operation, identifying thriving businesses for loans and gambling. One mob company held contracts with 1,400 businesses, hiding in virtually every neighborhood in the city. Cash revenue made it ideal for laundering, creating a self-cleaning financial vehicle that operated in public. For more deep dives into Gotham's dark side, hit follow. 1,400 businesses, one family. The Genovese operation was everywhere. The mob's infiltration of New York hotels meant every ballroom had a silent partner. You don't know the full story. Listen up. Union locals had documented ties to the five families, giving organized crime influence over labor and contracts. Even at the Sheraton and Waldorf Astoria, mob-connected union officials conducted business through labor influence. Banquet contracts were steered toward mob suppliers and kickback arrangements with purchasing managers. Mob-connected linen suppliers held monopolies, providing inferior products at inflated prices under threat of labor strikes. Overcharging added $40 million annually to the industry's costs, passed directly to guests through higher room rates. For more deep dives into Gotham's dark side, hit follow. Next time you check into a Midtown hotel, you're staying in history. Follow for more. The mob ran NYC's electrical union, the power grid of organized crime. You don't know the full story. Listen up. Local 3 was one of the most powerful unions in the city, identified as having sustained mob influence through the 70s and 80s. Mob-connected contractors used union ties to create an electrical tax, kicking back a percentage of every major Manhattan project. No-show workers on payrolls never appeared on job sites, with paychecks funneled back to Lucchese and Genovese associates. Benefit funds holding hundreds of millions were targets for mob loan arrangements that were never repaid. One 90s prosecution recovered $12 million, only a fraction of what was stolen over 2 decades. For more deep dives into Gotham's dark side, hit follow. The pension theft is personal. Swipe through.
The mob's secret role in building Madison Square Garden, New York's most famous arena, has a shadow history. You probably don't know the full story. Listen up. MSG was built in 1968 during the peak of organized crime's concrete control. Federal evidence found mob patterns that ruled Manhattan's 1960s skyline. Labor came from unions with documented ties to the Genovese and Gambino families, relationships that governed the city. The demolition of Penn Station to make way for the Garden was managed through contracts with deep mob connections. Inside the walls, the mob controlled championship boxing contracts and major arena revenue. A 1984 FBI probe found the mob managed 6 Garden headliners, manipulating millions in commercial value. For more on Gotham's dark side, hit follow. We're getting into the building now.
The mob's infiltration of New York's fur industry, the other fashion racket nobody talks about. You probably don't know the full story. Listen up. Centering on 28th Street, the Lucchese family controlled trucking and labor, taxing every mink coat that moved through the city. Fur storage was a gold mine. Operators paid tribute to mob figures who ensured no competing businesses could operate in their territories. Fraud was rampant. Mob-connected adjusters staged theft claims for furs sold through back channels, splitting insurance payouts with crime figures. A 1969 Senate investigation documented that fur district operators had been paying systematic tribute for an average of 14 years. For more deep dives into the dark side of Gotham, hit that follow button. When Prohibition started in 1920 and banned alcohol across America, New York City responded by opening more bars than it had before, 30,000 speakeasies by some estimates in one city. Before Prohibition, NYC had approximately 15,000 licensed saloons. By the mid-1920s, the city had an estimated 30,000 speakeasies operating illegally. The NYPD was largely in on it. Police precincts had their own arrangements with local establishments. Mayor Jimmy Walker was famously wet. He openly flouted the law. The 21 Club on 52nd Street hid its wine cellar behind a 2-foot-thick concealed door that could only be opened by inserting a meat skewer into a specific crack in the masonry. That door is still there. The 21 Club operated through all 13 years of Prohibition without a single successful raid. For more deep dives into the dark side of Gotham, hit that follow button.
Before Lucky Luciano, before Meyer Lansky, before any of the names most people know, Lower Manhattan had its first organized crime network, run by immigrants on a single street in the 1880s. The Morello Gang. Giuseppe Morello, the clutch hand, arrived from Corleone, Sicily in the 1890s and built the first true organized crime family in New York City. Operating from East Harlem and Mulberry Street, they ran counterfeiting, extortion through Black-Hand letters, and murder for hire long before the structures of the five families existed. The NYPD's Italian Squad, America's first organized crime investigative unit, was formed specifically to combat them in 1905. That unit was the direct ancestor of the FBI's Organized Crime Division. Every mob structure that came after it traces back to Mulberry Street. For more deep dives into the dark side of Gotham, hit that follow button. Comment clutch hand if you know this name.
The Stonewall Inn, the birthplace of the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement, was owned by the Genovese crime family when the 1969 riots happened. The mob ran it as an illegal drinking establishment with no running water behind the bar. Glasses were washed in tubs of standing water and reused. Tony Lauria, under Genovese family direction, ran it as a private bottle club. The mob paid off the NYPD 6th Precinct for protection, but periodic raids still happened. On June 28, 1969, the raid went differently. The community fought back. The Stonewall riots lasted 6 days. The gay liberation movement was born in a mob bar with dirty glasses. America has never fully processed that irony. A movement that changed America started in a mob bar with no running water. Today, it's a national monument. Next time you're on Christopher Street, remember the history. Follow for more deep dives into the dark side of Gotham.
The mob's infiltration of New York's court system. How organized crime corrupted justice from inside the courthouse. You probably don't know the full story. Listen up. Investigations from the 50s through the 80s identified judges in Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan who accepted mob money or were placed on the bench through mob political appointments. Frank Costello's influence was not merely political. Documented cases showed judges provided favorable rulings to mob defendants after being appointed by Costello-connected sponsors. Corruption of court officers and clerks represented a second tier that was even more pervasive, giving mob figures access to sealed indictments and witness lists before trial. In 1985, a Brooklyn network of bail bondsmen with Colombo family ties was found bribing clerks for advance notice of warrants, generating six-figure annual incomes. This infiltration created institutional paranoia, slowing prosecutions for decades. For more deep dives into Gotham's dark side, hit that follow button. The mob's control of New York's window and glass industry. Every window in Midtown had a mob tax. You probably don't know the full story. Listen up. The Glaziers Union was identified as having Genovese family influence, giving the mob a revenue interest in every window installation contract across the city's construction market. Bid rigging followed a rotating system where mob-connected companies took turns winning major contracts at inflated prices, while losing bidders received side payments. Even the original Twin Towers involved contracts placed through this mob-influenced union, making those iconic windows part of the larger mob construction ecosystem. The scheme was finally prosecuted in the early 90s, revealing bid rigging valued at an estimated $40 million across Manhattan. The view from the top of New York always had an organized crime frame around it. For more deep dives, hit that follow button.